hope that everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And, during Thanksgiving, during last week, I heard a lot of people talk about how they are choosing not to celebrate Thanksgiving anymore for many different reasons. Some because of the commercialism. But if we think about it, if we focus on that reason, we wouldn't celebrate nothing. Nothing at all. We wouldn't celebrate the birth of Christ. We wouldn't celebrate his resurrection. We wouldn't even celebrate Labor Day, because Labor Day and all those Labor Day sales, that is the biggest commercialism that there is. And so we would be working every day because we wouldn't celebrate nothing if we focus on just the commercialism of everything. But a lot of people there's a growing number of people that are not celebrating Thanksgiving, and I get some of it because of the folklore that's attached to the history, the American history of Thanksgiving. With how I remember in elementary school we used to make the pilgrim hats and then the Indian feathers, and so a lot of people are now turned off on that history. But that's only the history here. Because of that history, a lot of people say, I don't want to be a part of that. But see, for most of us, especially over the last few generations, we are truly starting to live out the meaning and the definition of the word Thanksgiving. And I was thinking about it this week because so many people were saying that I'm not celebrating Thanksgiving. I don't want no traditional dinner or nothing like that. And so I was like, do people understand what Thanksgiving really means? And so I said, I want a full understanding. So I went to the dictionary. I went to the Oxford Dictionary and looked up the definition. What does the English language say what Thanksgiving is? And do you know, check this out. Do you know, if, and you can look this up yourself, because I'm telling you the truth. Do you know the Oxford Dictionary defines the word Thanksgiving as the expression of gratitude, get this, especially to God? I'm gonna let that sit with you for a moment. This is not no biblical dictionary. This is not from a concordance or anything like that. This is from the Oxford Dictionary. They say Thanksgiving means the expression of gratitude, especially to God. So if the Oxford Dictionary defines it this way, then we better define it this way. So this means that so while here in North America we look at Thanksgiving as being made all about the turkey, all about the ham and the dressing and the pie and the beans, the greens, the tomatoes, and you name it, right? That's what we define Thanksgiving as. We define Thanksgiving as a dinner. We define Thanksgiving as a parade. Even though I got to say, I love the Thanksgiving parade. I love it. I'm the only one in my family that gets up at 7 a.m. on Thanksgiving and turns on NBC and watch the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. I am a big fan of it, and it's on my bucket list one year to go to New York on Thanksgiving and attend the Thanksgiving parade. I just want to do it one day. But here in North America, we make it all about that stuff. And we don't even, and we sometimes ignore what the actual definition is. This is a time to express gratitude, especially to God. God, I thank you for what I have. Now, I'm not being thankful for what I've acquired, but I'm thank you for the things that you've blessed me with. When I look around my home, God, I thank you that I have shelter. Yeah, this may not be my dream home, but yet and still, God, I thank you for shelter. I thank you for clothes on my back. God, I just thank you for all that you've done for me throughout my life. And so while we've made it all about this other stuff here in America and Canada and even in Mexico, the rest of the world understands that Thanksgiving isn't just the third Thursday in November. The rest of the world understands it's something that we should be doing. Thanksgiving should be a lifestyle for us. And so how do we express and show this gratitude, especially to God? How do we express this gratitude? I want to let you know it's the same way that we express any type of emotion. Through thought, word, and actions. It's very simple. And so expressing gratitude with our thoughts is done when we pray and when we reflect. And so all throughout the Bible, we see moments. We see moments when people prayed a prayer of thanksgiving. People sacrificed a calf, and before they ate, they prayed a prayer of thanksgiving. Even Job, on his sick bed, prayed a prayer of thanksgiving. Even the entire book of Psalms is multiple prayers and songs of thanksgiving. And if we really want to get down to it, the Last Supper is actually the first Thanksgiving dinner. I know it doesn't seem that way, but in Luke 22:19, it says that Jesus, what? Broke the bread and gave thanks. So so in a moment where Jesus knew that this was his last supper, the last meal that he would have, he still had a time to say, I'm going to express gratitude and give thanks to God. And so we pray, but we also reflect. We reflect with our thoughts. You remember the song, When I Think About Jesus and All He's Done for Me? Come on, that's a reflection when we say that. When I think about Jesus and all He's done for me, I'm reflecting, I'm expressing my gratitude through reflection, or the phrase, when I look back over my life. Come on, we said that before. When I look back over my life and see all that God has done, what? My soul cries hallelujah. Come on, that's a reflection. When we look back and see the miracles, signs, and wonders that God has done for us in the past, it gives us the energy to keep moving forward, to keep pressing forward, even though we may be going through some trials and problems now. When we reflect, we're showing gratitude. God, you brought me out then. I know you're going to bring me out now. And so we do this through prayer and reflecting and expressing gratitude through our words is very simple. It's very simple. We can use two words to express gratitude with our words. Thank you. Thank you. I'll give you an example. Life Words Church, I thank you. And I mean this. I thank you for your commitment to this ministry over these past few years. That since we've launched, we've done some amazing things to be a small church. We've made such an amazing impact on this community. And even my daughter, she jokes at me, and even some other people have said this. And they say, Pastor Trey, you're like the mayor of Natomas. Like, everybody knows you. And I can't take the credit for that, but it's only because of what we do here, and how we have this heart for service, and how we have this heart for the community. As the head of this church, people think that, oh, it's Pastor Trey, but no, it's really Life Words Church. It's really Life Words Church. And so, Life Words, I thank you for your commitment. I thank you for all that you do. I even thank you for your encouraging words. Sometimes some of you just send me text messages, or call me, or send an email, or somehow you reach out to me and just give me a word of encouragement and just say, keep going, keep pushing, and better days are coming. So I thank you. I couldn't imagine going through these seasons in my life without you. And so I just want to express my gratitude to all of you through words. And then the last way we express gratitude is through actions. Now that sounds like it's easy, but it's actually one of the ways that's done the least. To display an action of gratitude requires that we're giving from what we've already been blessed with. To express gratitude, that means I'm giving from myself to someone else. Now part of giving comes from a level of responsibility. You know, we give to our children because we're responsible for raising them, right? So, you know, even though it seems like they coming in our pockets without us looking sometimes, we give to them because we are responsible for raising them. We give to God's church because we are responsible for maintaining his church. So there's a responsibility that comes with giving. But and I want to remind you that it's not just my responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of a few consistent tithers. It's the responsibility of all of us to maintain God's church. But the other part of giving comes from a more generous area. It comes from a more generous place that we call the overflow. Come on, somebody say overflow this morning. And see, that's when giving becomes fun in the overflow. It's when you're giving from the overflow of your blessings, that Shaddai place that we talk about, that place of more than enough. When you have the abundance of blessings, that's when giving really gets fun. And I don't know about you, I want to get to that place where I can just give from my overflow. And I believe that God is preparing us to live in that life of overflow. And so that's the main focus of this series, Overflow. And now, I know someone may be saying, I picked the wrong Sunday to be here because Pastor Trey is about to preach about money. Well, first of all, yeah, I am. I just want to be honest. Yes, I am. But secondly, if you are a guest today or if you're not a member of Life Words, I want to let you know, please feel no obligation to give today. In fact, this service is our gift to you. And so let's just be clear there. And if you've been here long enough, you know that we don't talk about money often here. There's very few times that I've done a sermon on money or giving, and this is actually, I believe, this is our first series on giving since we've been here. I believe I'm right about that. This is the first time that we've done a series on it, and so we don't preach about money because we believe that if we can explain it through our growth track, that you would know the principles of giving. You would know that what's your duty when it comes to giving. You would understand what tithing is, what offering is, and giving from your overflow. We believe if we can just show you those principles, we don't have to spend a lot of time here teaching about it, preaching about it, or standing up here for 20, 30 minutes saying, oh, we need another offering, we need a third offering, we need this. No, we can just say, you know what, it's that time to give, I'll give, and let that be it. I believe that's we've been doing that here steadily for 4 years, and I believe that's what we're going to continue to do. And plus, there are two main reasons that people say they are hesitant about going to church. And it has nothing to do with theology, it has nothing to do with biblical doctrine or anything. It's two reasons. The number one reason is because they feel that they have to dress up. A lot of people feel that they have, I don't have anything to wear. I don't have anything that is appropriate for church. Is my mic going out again? Thank you. So they feel that I don't have anything appropriate to give, and so I just won't go because I don't have the right type of clothes. And so that's why we're a casual church. That's why we don't put pressure on anyone to come and wear a dress or a three-piece suit. Now, if you want to come dressed like that, more power to you. But we want to make sure that we send out the message that you can indeed come as you are. And the second reason is because people think all the church wants is what? Come on. And a lot of people are thinking that it's either because they need to dress up or it's because the church wants their money. And through this series, my goal is to show you that there are some biblical principles in Scripture that explain why we must be generous people. And so that's my prayer, is that you understand that. So now when I was looking for a title of today's message, I looked to a sermon from my pastor, and I got some notes from him. And so when he shared this little note with me, I said, that's the title. And so I'm taking a lot of this from him today. So I got to give him some credit for this message today. But the title of today's message is, I'm picking up what God is putting down. I'm picking up what God is putting down. And so let's go with me now to Ruth. We're going to read the story of Ruth, and I just want to give you a little bit of a warning. I know sometimes when we preach about Ruth, we all know, we have the single women who get excited because we know how the story ends. Ruth meets her Boaz. She meets her man, and so the single women be like, yes, I'm gonna wait on my Boaz, and then the single men in the church, all of a sudden they say, okay, I'm counting 1, 2, 3. There's a
single women, I'm going to show out today. I'm going to pick up some chairs that don't even need to be picked up. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to really look like a Boaz today. And so I want to let you know that this is not that kind of message. This is not a message to encourage you to wait on a man or men to wait on your Ruth. This is not that type of message. But I think there's a message through Ruth that we sometimes ignore, and it goes handily with this series, Overflow. So go with me now to Ruth chapter 1, and we're going to read 1 through 14, but I'm going to start with 1 through 5. Let's start with verse 1. It says, in the days when the judges ruled Israel, a severe famine came upon the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah left his home and went to live in the country of Moab, taking his wife and 2 sons with him. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife was Naomi. Their 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in the land of Judah. And when they reached Moab, they settled there. Verse 3, then Elimelech died, and Naomi was left with her 2 sons. Verse 4, the 2 sons married Moabite women. One married a woman named Orpah, not Oprah. I want to get that straight. Orpah, and the other a woman named Ruth. But about 10 years later, both Mahlon and Chilion died. This left Naomi alone with her 2 sons and without her 2 sons and her husband. So let me pause and give you a little bit of a backstory really quick. So there was a famine in Judah, the land that God had given to his people. And he said, I want you to settle here. And he actually gave them instructions in the book of Deuteronomy, do not leave this place. This is the place I have appointed for you to live. This is the land of milk and honey. This is the place where you will grow, where you will prosper, where you will be protected. I want you to stay here. And so those were the instructions that God gave his people, not to never leave. But Elimelech was like, you know what? It's a famine right now. We can't stay here. If we stay here, we're going to starve. And so I'm out. And so how many of you know that when we run from a situation, sometimes we run into a worse situation? And so here's Elimelech and his family running from one bad situation. We're starving, we're hungry over here, running to another situation because he thinks that there's food in this land, but what he ends up losing his life, and his sons lose their lives as well. Sometimes we can run from a situation that God says, stay there, remain there, even though it's getting hard, even though you may feel like you're hungry, you're starving. I need you to stay committed. I need you to hold on. I need you to stay right here. Do not leave, because this place that I've called you to is the place where you're going to be blessed. So remain there, but our flesh gets in the way, and we decide, because I'm hungry, because I'm uncomfortable, because somebody said something that I didn't like, I'm leaving this place, going to try a new place. And when we get to that new place, we realize we should have stayed where we were. It happens time and time again. We run from a job only to go to another job where they treat us even worse than the job before. We run from a church only to find out that the next church we go to got even more mess than the church we just left. And so here's Elimelech running from the place where God allowed the famine to happen. And do you know, and this is our first key point today, do you know where God allowed the famine is the same place he will allow the overflow? The place where he allowed the famine is the same place he will allow the overflow. So you gotta remain where God has called you, remain there. The worst thing that we can do is run away from where God has called us. The worst thing that you can do in your life is run from the place where you know God has called you to be here. God has called you to be in Sacramento. God has called you to be at Life Words Church. He has called you, and the worst thing that you can do is run away from your calling. And the Bible says that God chastens those whom he loves. So don't be afraid of a little famine. Don't be afraid of a hard time. If God has called you to it, come on, that goes into our next key point. If God brought you to it, you must go through it so that he can get you to it. I said that a couple weeks ago, and I promised y'all I was going to put this in a sermon somehow. Well, there you have it. If God brought you to it, you must go through it so that he can get you to it. And let's continue in verse number 6. In verse number 6 in Ruth chapter 1, it says, Then Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops again. See, the place where they left, but the place where their flesh got so much in the way and they felt that they just had to leave. Then it says here that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops again. So there was plentiful food again. So Naomi and her daughters-in-law got ready to leave Moab to return to her homeland. Verse 7 says, with her two daughters-in-law, she set out from the place where she had been living, and they, I'm sorry, I lost my place. And they took the road that would lead them back to Judah. Verse 8, but on the way, Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, go back to your mother's homes, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness and to your husbands and to me. Verse 9, may the Lord bless you with security of another marriage. Then she kissed them goodbye, and they all broke down and wept. So here's Naomi telling them, look, I appreciate your commitment to me. I appreciate that you want to take this journey with me. I appreciate how you loved on my sons, but hey, you're still young. Go back home. Go back home so that you can find another husband, so that you can find some happiness. I'm an older woman, so I've had my husband, I had my time, but there's still an opportunity for you to have a second chance at love. So go home. And so verse 10 says, no, they said, we want to go with you to your people. But Naomi replied, why should you go on with me? Can I give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husbands? Verse 12, no, my daughters, return to your parents' home, for I am too old to marry again. And even if it were possible and I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry someone else? No, of course not, my daughters. Things are far more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord himself has raised his fist against me. Naomi did everything she could to send her daughters-in-law back to their families. But look what happened in verse 14. It says, and again they wept together. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung tightly to Naomi. One kissed her goodbye, and the other clung to her and said, I'm not leaving your side. I want you to get that. One kissed her, and one clung to her. See, you got to get that. Some of you are in a season where people are going to kiss you goodbye. And some of you are in a season, it could be the same season. You're in a season where people are going to kiss you goodbye, and at the same time, people are going to cling with you. And here's the key. You got to be okay with both. You got to be okay with people kissing you and saying goodbye, and you got to be okay with people clinging to you in this season. And so we have to be okay with both, because too often in our lives, and even in the church, we like people to cling to us, but we don't like the kissing, because the kissing means goodbye. We don't like for people to leave us, but we like for people to cling to us in the church, and that happens so often. And so you probably ask yourself, well, Pastor Trey, didn't it hurt when they left? Of course it did. I'm human. Yes, it hurt when they left, especially when they left without any reason. I'm trying to figure out, why did they leave? It hurt. But in this season, in my life and in your life as well, we have to understand that we got to be okay with people kissing us and waving goodbye. And waving goodbye. It hurt. And just like it likely hurt Naomi to see Orpah leave. She didn't want to send her home, but she knew she felt that she was doing what was best for Orpah. Go and be with your family. So I know it likely hurt Naomi, but could it be that God knew that this next season it was better for Orpah to leave rather than to stay? See, sometimes we hold on to people that God is saying let go of. Sometimes we hold on to people because it's out of our comfort. I'm going to keep you near me. I'm going to keep you in my life. I'm going to keep this situation. I'm going to keep this habit in my life because it's what I know. This is what's comfortable for me. But God is likely saying that there are people, there are places, situations, and habits in your life that you need to just kiss goodbye. Kiss goodbye. Could it be that the next season, the next blessing, the next level for Life Word Church would be better if those people weren't here? Think about it. Could it be that it was God's plan that no, for what I'm about to do in this church, we need some people to go. Because could it be that they likely couldn't handle the growth that was about to happen? Because, with more growth comes more responsibility. Could it be that they weren't ready for responsibility? Could it be that they weren't ready to spiritually mature? I want to assume so. And so I have to be okay with people saying goodbye. And so you have to be okay with people saying goodbye. Could it be that the people who left you were the same people who are going to be jealous of you when God elevates you? Could it be that God was saving you from some unnecessary drama in your life? And so those people just had to leave without any notification. They just left. Could it be that God was filtering some people out so that there would be room for the overflow in your life? And so that's not, I want to just say that's not throwing shade at anyone who has left, because it probably worked out for their good also. It probably worked out for them that wherever they left and went to, whether it was another city, whether it was another church, it was probably for their best interest as well. And I pray that things are working out for their good. But see, the next blessing for Ruth had no capacity for Orpah. The next blessing, there was no room for Orpah in that blessing. Ruth had no idea what she was about. What she was clinging to was not just Naomi, but it was her destiny as well. And see, when we cling to our destiny, sometimes there's no room for some people to hang on to us. So some people just have to be removed. She had no idea that what she was clinging to, and she had no idea that the blood that she would be an integral part of the bloodline that would lead to Jesus. See, she was clinging to more than just Naomi. She was clinging to the bloodline of Jesus. See, it ran through Ruth, and it would not have happened if Ruth would have said, "All right, Naomi, I'm going home too." Without Ruth saying, "I'm going to cling to you," it wouldn't have led to Jesus. And so without no lineage to Jesus, there is no lineage to Jesus without Ruth. And some of you are kissing people goodbye or clinging to something for a reason in this season. I want to let you know that there's a reason, but you may not understand it. Ruth didn't understand fully why she was clinging. Why she was clinging on to Naomi, but see, God did it. And so some of you are clinging to things and kissing people goodbye without fully knowing, because God is about to connect you with something so significant that you cannot allow people to disconnect you from God in this season. See, you're just one step away from that breakthrough. You're just one step away from that blessing that you've been looking for. While in the meantime, while you're one step away, there may be people clinging to you that are keeping you from making that next step. And so there are some people that we just have to release, kiss, and say goodbye to in order to get to our breakthrough. The next miracle or breakthrough in your life is tied to you clinging to the right people and to the right places, and you cannot allow anyone or anything to separate you from what God is about to do in your life. Do not allow people, and I'm pretty sure there's somebody right now, there's somebody or something somewhere that's on the front of your mind saying, "You know what? I've been allowing this person to cling to me when I should have been kissing them goodbye." Or there are other people that you should have been clinging to, but you kissed them goodbye. And I want to let you know, find the right people, the right places, and the right things to cling to in this season. I want to give you an example from the ministry of Jesus. in John chapter 6. Let's go to John chapter 6, and we're going to start at verse 53. Verse 53. It says, "So Jesus said again, I tell you the truth, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink of his blood, you cannot have eternal life within you." Verse 54, "But anyone who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise that person at the last day. For my flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink. Anyone who eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in him." So at this point, it says in verse 66, it says, "And at this point, his disciples turned away and deserted him." So many people. At this point, there were hundreds of people. At this point, and it says they turned away and deserted him. Verse 67, "Then Jesus turned to the 12 and asked, 'Are you also going to leave?' And Simon Peter replied, 'Lord, to whom would we go? You have the words that give eternal life. We believe and we know that you are the Holy One of God.'" So here we are. Hundreds of people have been following Jesus. Hundreds. And here he's saying, if you want to follow me, if you want the keys to heaven, then you must eat my flesh and drink of my blood. And people didn't understand what he was saying. And so all they could think was, ill. I'm not doing that. Gross. I'm out. This man is crazy. He's trying to start some type of cult or something. I'm done with this. And so many people, hundreds of people said goodbye. And only 12 remained. Hundreds kissed, but only 12 were willing to cling. And if Jesus can be okay with hundreds of people walking away, hundreds of people kissing him goodbye, if Jesus can be okay with that, then why cannot we be okay with it in our life? Sometimes when people leave our lives, all of a sudden it leads to us being depressed. We're angry. We're mad. We're questioning things. We even say this, and I can't stand when people say this. I need to find out what happened because I need to close that chapter in my life. No, you don't. We've heard that before. I need closure. No, you don't. You need to just kiss goodbye. So many times I need closure. Jesus didn't seek closure. He seek people who are willing to cling to him. And if only 12 were willing to cling to him and he was okay with that, you got to be okay with the few that are willing to cling with you. I cannot begin to count how many people. Launch day, we had nearly 200 people. I look around at the room now. I'm okay with that because I know this is a room full of people who are willing to cling, to cling and not kiss goodbye. So if Jesus can be okay with hundreds walking away, so can I. And the people in your life that have walked away likely did not have like I said, the spiritual capacity to understand what God is about to do in your life. See, those hundreds that walked away from Jesus, they didn't have the spiritual capacity to understand what God was about to do in not only the life of Jesus, but in all of their lives as well, because those 12 are the 12 that started the thing that we're here for now. Is because of those 12 decided to cling. But what would have happened if those hundreds understood, if they had the spiritual capacity to understand what God was trying to do? The church would have moved and made so many miracle signs and wonders in such larger numbers if people would have just understood instead of gotten their flesh. And so the people in your life, they didn't have the spiritual capacity to understand what God is doing in your life. So they walked away because God knew that I'm about to elevate you, and the person who has been with you is not willing or able or doesn't have the strength or capacity to support you in where I'm about to take you. They couldn't understand when you were speaking in the supernatural instead of the literal. See, some people can't understand when we talk about we're living in the overflow. They cannot understand when we say that we're the head and not the tail, that we're above and not beneath. Some people don't have the capacity to understand it. I can say something on social media about the goodness of God and prophesy and say all that he's about to do. And there are so many people who will not understand a word that I'm saying because I'm speaking in the supernatural instead of their literal. And so sometimes when you speak what God has already is calling you to or what you see in the supernatural, there are people in your lives who will not understand it. So my message today, again, pick up what God is putting down, but some of us have picked up the wrong things. Come on, think about it. Some of us are not picking up what God is picking up. In order to pick up what God is dropping, you have to put down what the devil has placed in your hands. And sometimes, when God drops something, he is asking us to pick it up. But here's what the enemy will do: the enemy will just gently place it in your hands and make it look like it's a blessing. Oh, this was gently placed in my hands, and it's so pretty. It tastes good. It feels good. Oh, it's valuable. It has some value. See, the enemy knows that if he can make you question who you are, because what he may have placed in your hand was a self-identity crisis, but it looked like love from others. It maybe have looked like love from society. And the enemy knows if I can make you question who you are in God, then most of my work is done. Because if I can get you to separate yourself from God and question who you are in him, if I can make you question if you are a they or a them or a he or a she, if I can make you question who you are, if the enemy can do that in your life, then he knows my work is more than halfway done in your life. I have complete and total control over your life if I can just make you have a self-identity crisis. The enemy will also place in your hands doubt, fear, judgment, anger, worry. He will place unhealthy relationships in your hands. Come on, let's talk about. He will even place pornography in your hands. He will place addictions in your hand. You gotta put that stuff down, because some of the stuff that Jesus, that the enemy is placing in your hands, Jesus is saying, I didn't call you to that. I didn't ask you to pick up that stuff. So what does all this have to do with overflow? Get this. There are things that you have to put down in order for there to be a capacity for overflow. See, what the devil puts in your hands puts lids on your life. There's a cap on it. But see, when we're able to finally take off the cap and release those things that the devil has placed into our hands, the fear, the judgment, the doubt, the gossip, the worry, when we could take those things out and make room for God to pour in, there is opportunity now for overflow to happen in our life. And so another thing, let's go back to Ruth. We all know how the story ends, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. Let's go back to Ruth, but we're gonna move over to chapter 2. Chapter 2, verse 1. It says, now there was a wealthy and influential man in Bethlehem named Boaz. Here's the man who was a relative of Naomi's husband, Elimelech. One day, Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me go out into the harvest fields to pick up the stalks of grain left behind by anyone who is kind enough to let me do it. Naomi replied, all right, my daughter, go ahead. So Ruth went out to gather grain behind the harvesters, and as it happened, she found herself working in a field that belonged to Boaz, the relative of her father-in-law Elimelech. While she was there, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and greeted the harvesters. The Lord be with you, he said. The Lord bless you, the harvesters replied. Verse 5, then Boaz asked his foreman, who is that young woman over there? Who does she belong to? And the foreman replied, she is the young woman from Moab who came back with Naomi. Verse 7, she asked me this morning if she could gather grain behind the harvesters. She has been hard at work ever since, except for a few minutes to rest in the shelter. Boaz went over and said to Ruth, listen, my daughter, stay right here with us when you gather your grain. Don't go to any other fields. Stay right behind the young women working in my field. See which part of the field they are harvesting, and then follow them. I have warned the young men not to treat you roughly. And when you are thirsty, help yourself to the water they have drawn from the well. Verse 10, Ruth fell at his feet and thanked him warmly. What have I done to deserve such kindness, she asked. I am only a foreigner. Yes, I know, Boaz replied, but I also know everything you have done for your mother-in-law. since the death of your husband. I have heard how you left your father and your mother and your own land to live here among complete strangers. May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, fully reward you fully for what you have done. Verse 13, a few more verses. I hope I continue to please you, sir, she replied. You have comforted me by speaking so kindly to me, even though I am not one of your workers. Verse 14, at mealtime, Boaz called to her, come over here and help yourself to some food. You can dip your bread in the sour wine. So she sat with his harvesters, and Boaz gave her some of the roasted grain to eat. She ate all she wanted and still had some left over. And still had some left over because Ruth decided to cling to the right thing. Because years before, Ruth decided to cling to the right thing. She went from picking up scraps to walking in her destiny. Come on. She thought that all that she would do, she just was after some food. So I'm just going to walk behind, not only walk behind the men, I'm going to walk behind the women who are picking up the scraps. And I'm just here to pick up the scraps of the scraps. She thought that was the life that she was clinging to. But God said, no, Ruth. No, you're clinging to your destiny. There's much more that you're clinging to. So picking up scraps, it may seem embarrassing. Picking up scraps, it may seem humiliating. It may seem like it's beneath you, but it may even feel like a struggle. And I want to let you know that yes, the struggle is real, but the struggle does not have to be hard. And so we say things like, I don't want to start by cleaning bathrooms in the church. That's beneath me. That seems like it's embarrassing. I don't want to start by being a greeter. I don't want to start by serving in the kids ministry. I'm just going to wait on God to give me the opportunity to be a leader. I want to let you know that every leader here at Life Word Church started by picking up scraps. If you want to be a leader, pick up some scraps. If you want the spotlight, pick up some scraps. Yeah, if you want to be able to pray like Pastor Tasha and Minister Mai, pick up some scraps. I had a conversation a few months ago with Minister Mai. She said, Pastor Trey, I'm more than just a preacher. Use me. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves. Do you need me to clean something? Do you need me to serve? Do you need me standing out front? What else do you need? I'm willing, even though I'm in this position of leadership, I'm still willing to pick up scraps. I look at people on our trustee board who I see, even though they're in this position of leadership, they're still willing to pick up scraps. I look at Stan, who's on our trustees. He's still every Sunday after church, he's picking up the trash and taking it to the dumpster. I look at Pastor Finley, who has, I've seen him pick up scraps many years of his life. And he's been licensed and ordained in ministry. But still, yet today, he is still willing to put on one of those blue vests and be out in that parking lot waving to people. Still to this day. You see, it's a heart of service. And that's what God saw. God saw that Ruth was willing to cling to the right things. I want to let you know that every leader here at Life Word Church, every one of you at Life Word Church has decided to cling to the right thing. And so God is going to elevate you. Ruth was clinging to more than Naomi. She was clinging to her destiny. Well, and you may also say when it comes to overflow and giving, well, I don't want to just put $10 in the offering. So I'm going to just wait to the opportunity that God blesses me so that I can be a big giver. I believe that God is going to bless me with that new job that pays me a lot of money. I believe that God is going to bless me to win the lottery. Come on, some of us do think that. But I believe that God is just going to bless me with a lot of money, and then I can be a big giver. So I'm just going to wait till I'm a big giver. But do you know that every big giver was once a small giver? Every big giver was once a small giver. If you don't practice giving right now, what makes you think when you have a lot of money that you are all of a sudden going to be practicing being a big giver? If you cannot practice the gift of giving at this level, what makes you think that you're going to be able to give at this level? And so Ruth was clinging at such a low level that she thought, this is what my life is. I clung to Ruth, and now I'm picking up scraps in the field. But what she didn't know, she was picking up scraps in the field of her destiny. And I love what the last verse says in verse 14. It says, and Boaz gave her some roasted grain to eat, and she ate all she wanted, and she had some left over because Ruth was willing to cling to Naomi and pick up what God was putting down. It led to her receiving an overflow. See, she got her fill, but then she had even more. She had even more to bring home to Naomi. She had more to give to others. She had so much more. And because she kept coming back, she didn't just go one time, get the overflow, and leave. But she kept coming back. She stayed clinging all the time. She still stayed with Naomi, and she received more and more and more and more of the overflow until she became the wife of Boaz, and now she is over this entire field. Overflow. You want an overflow in your life? How many of you want an overflow in your life today? I want to let you know, pick up what God is putting down. Pick up what God is putting down. See, sometimes, what is God putting down? He's putting down His word. Pick it up. He's putting down an opportunity to talk to Him, pray. Pick it up. He's picking while we're holding on to confusion. God is saying, I'm putting down some clarification in your life. Pick it up. While you're walking around sad, angry, and alone, God said, hey, over here, I left something for you. There's some peace. There's some joy. There's some comfort here. Pick it up. See, we have to pick up what God is putting down. You want to live in the overflow, pick up what God is putting down by serving, by giving, by clinging to the church, by praying, by studying the word, by speaking the word. Pick up what God is putting down. Cling to the right people and be okay with kissing people goodbye. See, what would have happened if Ruth would have kissed Naomi goodbye just like Orpah did? What would have happened even if Orpah did not kissed Naomi goodbye and said, well, I'm going too. I don't want to go back home. I'm going too. What if when they got there, Orpah would have gotten in the way of Ruth's blessing? See, God, I love how God works, how He strategically positions people in your life to grant you a blessing or protect you from what could have been a curse in your life. I talked about it this morning with our team during our huddle. I woke up Friday morning after Thanksgiving and really just felt like being lazy. Really didn't feel like going and doing anything. But one of the friends of Life Words, Nathan Cox, he moved up to Portland. He was in town and he called me and said, Pastor Trey, I want to treat you to a round of golf. Come meet me at the golf course at 1:00. And I was thinking, I really don't feel like it. I just want to be lazy. All right. But it was like just something in my spirit, and it was a Holy Spirit saying, go. You this is a divine appointment for you. You need to cling to this man. And I thought that when him and Paula left and moved up to Portland, that we were giving them a kiss goodbye. But Nathan and Paula have still been supportive of this ministry, and they've been clinging to this ministry. And so I felt that this was an opportunity for me to cling to him for some reason. So I decided, well, I'm going to get my golf clothes together, my clubs together, and I'm going to meet him on the course. And even though I didn't feel like going, we had a great time. And while we were there, we started talking, and he was asking about my daughter and how her college search is going. I said, well, she's applying to this school and that school and this school and that school. And I said, well, we may be coming up your way pretty soon because she just applied to the University of Portland. And he looked at me and said, really? He said, do me a favor, send me an email with a list of her accomplishments and her grade point average and everything that she's been a part of. And I looked at him, I said, okay, but I know that you don't work at the university. You have, you work in an entirely different field. He said, send it to me, and I want to tell you why. The president of the university is a good friend of mine. And every time I recommend someone to him, he takes it seriously. send me her information. I want to let you know that sometimes we don't know why we're clinging to people. We don't know why God is calling us to go certain places and certain situations. It's because God has already created a divine appointment for you to reach maybe not your destiny, but maybe the destiny for your children. I did not know when I was going to the golf course to just swing at a few few clubs that I was opening the door of opportunity for my daughter. Come on. Sometimes God is going to place you in situations and places that you don't even understand why you're there. You walk through the doors and you're like, this doesn't feel right to me. I think I need to go. But God has already ordered things that is going to elevate you or your family. There are moments in your life, just like here with Ruth. She didn't know why she was picking up scraps. Why am I here? Why am I picking up scraps? Is this what life is all about? No, Ruth, is more than that. But stay committed. Stay faithful. Stay clinging on, because what you're clinging on to is your destiny. LifeWorks family, I'm here to tell you, if you stay clinging on to the right things, you're clinging on to your destiny. Thank you. And so as I close, I want to invite you today to cling to the one who has already ordered your steps. Cling to the one who has already given you a yes. Cling to the one who has already created ways out of no way for you. Cling to people who are willing to support you and elevate you and lift you, even in times when there's a famine in your life. Even in times when there's a spiritual drought in your life. Cling to the right people. Cling to the right places. Come on. Cling to the right places that is going to spiritually elevate you. The places that are going to mature you and not decrease you. See, it wasn't just that Naomi was clinging to the right people, but she, as Boaz told her, don't go to any other fields. Because if she wouldn't have took that advice and went to other fields, then they may not have been as generous. They may have arrested her or called her a thief or anything like that. He told her,